Welcome back, everybody. Brian Schwager here, founder of Wellness Movement Services, here to present yet another part to the incredible series on immunity. This is a very important topic, not just because our immune and lymphatic system represents our first line of defense against all illness, but specifically with what we're up against right now, and we have been since the end of 2019 regarding this pandemic and this whole thing about how we're being invaded by an external virus that is going to kill our bodies. I explained a lot about this in part 3 under when I talked about the immune and lymphatic system. But today we're going to show you, and I'm going to share with you how I use the 4 principles to enhance these 2 systems. And remember, the 4 principles represents everything that I do in my service. I use it with all of my clients. It doesn't matter whether you're coming to me with a compromised immune system, you're coming to me with pain, or you're coming to me with just no pain and you just want to get fit, or maybe you're an athlete or an extreme athlete, like a professional or a tactical athlete. It doesn't matter. I'm going to use the 4 principles because if you want your system to run at its optimal, ideal performance, then we need to look at these 4 principles and enhance each one because they all contribute to how we move and function in life. In this case, how our immune and lymphatic systems function is directly related to the power of the immune system. We know we have a network of organs working together to help defend our body, and that 75% of your immune system is located in your gut. We know that we're constantly being barraged by all types of toxins, viruses, carcinogens, and all these foreign invaders. They're there in our life. What our job is to reduce the body's susceptibility to these foreign invaders. And mainly going into the immune system is to build up our defense so that when these things enter our body, which they are going to, and they have been, they're sitting in us right now. And hopefully your immune system, these are some of the specialized cells, hopefully they're doing their job. But our systems have been dumbed down because of the excess foreign invaders. So I shared with you how important these little specialized cells are and what their abilities are, even as much as fighting cancer. We looked at the germ theory that they thought by attacking these foreign invaders that it would stop and eradicate illness. Well, did it do that? It never did. In fact, we have even more illness. And it's kind of, perplexing, as I covered in part 2 and part 3, even with all the medical technologies and all the advancements in education, why are we still seeing this problem when a lot of our contemporaries were looking at ways to mitigate this challenge? Our contemporaries, I mentioned Dr. Claude Bernard and Dr. Antoine Béchamp, they were focusing more on the terrain than fighting the germ. And in the long run, we ended up finding out that the secret of life is the fluid in which these cells float that become toxic. And that's what creates the disease state. And even on Pasteur's deathbed, he was reported as to say that the microbe is nothing, the terrain is everything. What I'd like to do here is I'm going to share a little video clip of someone that I watch and learn from. And I've read a number of his books. I mentioned Dr. Bruce Lipton and the biology of belief, which I'll be referring to in today's part. But let me do this. Let's take a quick look at what Bruce says about the immune system. Dr. Bruce Lipton.
So I said, well, how does it work? Well, the immune system is an intelligent system because what is the function of the immune system? to go out into the world of their body and look for things that are new that came in, and then not only recognize them, but learn about them so that they could create antibodies, for example, to effectively knock them out. So the immune system's character is learning and memory. I go, wow, what a coincidence. This is the character of the nervous system. Point. The immune system is an extension of the nervous system, learning and memory about the environment in which you live. So I said, well, how does it work? Well, I say that there are organisms that prefer to find the interior of our body as a place to live because it's so much easier for them just to sit there and live off of your energy and your nourishment. So the old story is, oh, the immune system protects self, my body, against invading organisms as everything else is called not self. Well, I go, that's a crude insight, but it's not anywhere near accurate for a simple reason. The immune system identifies things that get into the body that cause disruption of the system. And its job is to identify them, mark them, and eliminate them.
I found this video and I wanted to kind of reiterate the importance of not only the importance of the immune system, but how intelligent this body is. And as its intelligence, it has a sewage system which has to be in flow. We discussed this. And if it doesn't, you know, keep the waste products moving out, then they accumulate and they back up into the system, into the blood system, and cause disease. So let's move on now and let's start looking at principle number one, because the mind is a very, very important part of this. And the disruptions in how our mind is working will disrupt your immune system. Emotional health, when I look at my client, when I interview and consult with my clients, I need to get a baseline of how much stress they are under. But not only in the present moment, maybe that day or that month, but also I need to find out how much stress they have been under. And I'm not a psychologist. I'm just gathering data so I can get a baseline of how many spikes were in various periods of your life that give me an idea how weakened that system is now. Remember, taking a holistic and integrated approach requires that we do a detailed health history to get to the cause of my client's challenge. The mystery is in the history. And if you remember me sharing with you, when my clients have come to me, they've come to me with challenges that they've had off and on for years. I'm saying up to 18 years and more. Yes, they had temporary relief, but the reason they're coming to me is they're sick and tired of the vicious cycle and they want to get to the cause. That's why I look at this detailed health history. That's why I look at their emotional history. Now, something simple I may ask them is, what were the 5 most stressful events in your life in the last, let's say, 10 years? Now, if my clients are the same age as me, I may say in the last 20 to 25 years, or I may say starting from childhood. So in my life, if I start from childhood to 60, if I were to provide you with the 5 most stressful events in my life, I would say number 1, birth, because I was born sick, and then I almost drowned and died at about age 5. And then I was verbally abused and physically abused between the ages of 7 and 15. So a wellness coach or a health coach is beginning to recognize is these were major events, and these events get stored in my memory, in my subconscious mind, which will affect my nervous system, which will affect my immune system, believe it or not. Now, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole too deep here because I can, but let's get back on track. How do we handle stress? If I know my client has had these traumatic events, then I'll also ask them, are you currently, or have you worked with somebody to help you through these, help you to understand them, help you to dissolve them, and most importantly, to forgive them? And if they have, that's great. Then if they are currently working with somebody, then I may want to contact that person and at least gain any information that would be important for me. I don't have to have a lot, or to provide them with information that maybe I'm discovering through the consultation process. Now, this is all done with the permission of the client. What you're seeing here with this communication and what I'm sharing, why I'm sharing this with you, is that's the integrated part when it comes to working with multiple practitioners, which is something I love to do. I found out how important it was for to communicate with the physical therapist, with my massage therapist, with the chiropractor. Think of it, when the client comes in and they're currently seeing a chiropractor, a massage therapist, or a physical therapist, and now they're going to add me to this team of practitioners. But it's important that I get on the same page because I don't want to undo the work that all these other practitioners are doing, or vice versa. So we have to have some sort of an integrated communication. Well, the reason I bring that up is I may communicate with that practitioner about my client's stress history. So, how do they handle stress? Well, based on all the traumas people have had, and I will add that one of the most traumatic events that everybody is experiencing is this pandemic. I'm going to get into this. It's been very stressful emotionally and mentally on the population. In fact, suicides have gone up since the lockdowns and the deployment of this information to the public. And that creates a response in the body, which can actually, if done, when done from a fear-based perspective, it can actually shut down the immune system. It can actually shut down your cognitive function to reason with life. And that's why I have the little tagline, how we handle stress. It's not about managing stress itself. That's too tough to do. How can you manage something that's unpredictable? You never know what's really going to happen. And if you knew it was going to happen, then that would be easy, because if I know I have let's say I have pre-test anxiety, and I know I have a test in a week, I can use tools to mitigate that stress so that I can go into that test with a better state of mind. But if I am on the way to the test and I have a flat tire and then I find out I don't have a spare, well, that's a little bit different. How am I going to handle that came out of nowhere? Hans Seeley coined the term stress. He said the non-specific response of the body to any demand for change. Any demand for change. So if you think back about the 5 most stressful events in your life, how did you handle the change? Did you bury it like I did? I just buried that stress. And it came back to haunt me many times over in my life, which I refer to as the release of negative trapped emotions. Emotions get stored in the tissues. I was once told by my immunologist friend, who was also in my network of practitioners when I was practicing in Milwaukee. He said the issue is in the tissues. And further research has shown us by John Barnes, a myofascial massage therapist, to confirm that the fascia in the body is a neural network and receives information. That's why when you touch your skin, you feel that's a reception of information going to the brain. Well, emotions can get stored in your tissues, and this is fact. Well, if it gets stored there, where else do you think it gets stored? Have you ever heard of the term flashback? And that's what John Barnes was experiencing while he was doing his myofascial work on Vietnam veterans. They were instantly going back to that day and that time when they were fighting in the Vietnam War, and they were experiencing that stress. So the post-traumatic stress syndrome was sitting in their tissues. It can sit in your organs, and it can sit in other areas, and it can reduce your immune function and reduce your cognitive functions in life. So any demand for change, stress is perceived and interpreted by key control systems of the body via the limbic emotional system, via your hormonal system, your visceral, which is where your intestines are. Think of right here in your belly, your nervous system, your musculoskeletal. And then remember, there are other 10 subsystems in the body referred to as the 10-dimensional systems. And here they are. So these 10 systems are all interrelating with one another, and they have everything to do with your stress and how you perceive stress. You know, in the brain, you have a limbic emotional area, this temporal lobe, hearing, language, and memory. All right. We have different aspects of the brain that work in concert with our with our ability to manage our emotions. It could affect the way we problem solve. Remember when I was telling you, when the limbic emotional system goes up, have you ever heard of the term fight for flight, or fight, flight, or freeze rather? God designed a system in your body so that at a moment's notice, you can survive. So, as the story goes, you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. And all the blood needs to be shunted into your limbs so you can run away from the tiger, which means that the blood is also pulled back from the digestive and other systems of the body for survival. Now, your body is not designed to live like that all the time. It's designed to have access to that response network for short periods. But again, when I look at my clients' emotional health history, some of them are still living in that fight, fight, or freeze response. They're stuck in that perpetuating high stress response. And that will affect their frontal lobe, which is where you have problem solving, concentration, thinking. It can also affect your vision and your perception, which is back here in the back. It'll definitely affect your coordination of movement based on your cerebellum. And you have other motor control areas in your brain and how that will affect how you move. And that's, again, when I'm working with somebody that has a movement restriction, that's why I'm interested on their emotional health history. So in that, the other thing is we're talking about the immune and lymphatic system. And what you're going to learn through these 4 principles is a way to purify the body. Now, you may not know this, you may know this. To eradicate a disease, you have to go on a purification plan. Now, the people that I interviewed that had cancer, that had stage 3 or stage 4, and they cured it. I'm not going to say remission because it was gone based on thermography or MRI images that were done before and then after. When I asked them what they did, they basically did a full purification, both of their mind and their body. And what we're taught at the Czech Institute, purification actually starts in the mind. Because in order to purify the body, you got to get your mind ready. because it's not an easy process. When you're going and you're learning to rehab the body, I'm encouraging my clients to enhance their ability to stay committed, because at any moment, if they have a flare up, they may struggle, they may want to quit, they may want to give up. And these are all things I share with them, that I'm upfront and honest, because I've witnessed this working in this industry for 40 years, how people can give up. And I know that even while I was going through my purification process, I wanted to give up many a times because it was overwhelming. But thank God I had a good coach and I had good mentors and peoples around me to support me. So, but I bring that up because in order to decrease the inflammation for my clients that have muscle joint problems, in order to enhance the immune and lymphatic system, we have to clean up the environment. Remember how I was saying? It's the environment that needs to be clean. But that starts in the mind. So we're going to purify the mind and then purify the body. Because if the mind is not ready, the body will not follow. Why I use this image. It is a CPU, it's a central processing center. It's where we learn to perceive and interpret life. It's not the thinker, as everybody thinks, but it does computate, it does evaluate, it does perceive and interpret. And if this system is not running operatively, we don't have an operating immune and lymphatic system. When we look at the word stress, there are various stressors on the body, all kinds of stressors. There's mental, emotional stress, there's physical stress, there's heat stress or temperature, there's electromagnetic stress, like from these computers and from our smart devices and other devices, 5G. These have electromagnetic frequencies that are radiating at a very high rate. If you took a device that would measure the amount of frequencies and radiation coming off of your phone or a 5G or 4G tower, what they found is the meter goes way up, ladies and gentlemen, and those types of frequencies disrupt your bioelectrical system, which is what your body is made up of. It's a bioelectrical cybernetic organism. This computer I'm talking into is a multi-system system. So it is it's a thinking system, and it has multiple programs in it, doesn't it? Or multiple systems. So I'm using the Zoom application to make this video. I've used a PowerPoint application or system to create the PowerPoint. And together, I got them to communicate through screen sharing. So that's how the human organism works, although it's far more complicated than a computer, and it's a lot more touchy, and it can get thrown off by this radiation and by these frequencies that are bombarding our body. So that's another stress. So it's not just mental, emotional stress. That's our topic here. But there are many stressors coming on the body. Now, I know you're feeling a little overwhelmed by that. Oh my God, I'm being barraged by electromagnetic frequencies. I have nutritional stress because I'm eating the wrong food. I have biochemical stress because I'm not sleeping. Well, hey, listen, here's the thing that I teach my clients. It's one step at a time. That's why I created a step-by-step systematic process to ease these changes into their lives. But the power here today is your education. But I want you to apply it, because applied power is knowledge. Now, another thing about stress and its effect on your lymphatic and immune system. Well, get this. Here's Dr. Bruce Lipton again. How about that? 90% are connected to what kind of a stress? Okay, what kind of stress are we talking about here? We're talking about emotional stress. But what are the other stressors that make up that 90%? Oh, going back to the food, going back to the electromagnetic, going back to the excessive heat, etc., etc. These have detrimental effects if overdone. If overdone on the body. Too much of a good thing isn't good for the body. And of course, too much of something bad isn't good for the body either. Living in harmony. Eliminating that which no longer serves you reduces your stress, which increases your longevity. That's it. Right. So what you're going to learn is you're going to learn how to, manage your mind, not manage your stress. I wrote an article on that because I was perplexed when I would hear back in the 90s of stress management courses. And I later started to think, well, I can't manage the unpredictability of the stressor, right? The stress, but I certainly can manage my CPU and how I perceive stress. So the management starts here, not with the stress itself. So my computer gives off electromagnetic frequencies, right? But I got to go on there and use it. So what I do is I limit my use and I wear various devices, like the one on my wrist and one around my neck, that help to mitigate and scramble the coded frequencies that are bombarding my skin and in my eyes, which can have a devastating effect on my cellular environment. Remember, your cellular environment is a circulating nervous system. Your immune system is a circulating a nervous system. And in order for that nervous system to respond, it takes a bioelectrical charge to make that happen. So David, David Felton, medical doctor, professor of neurobiology and anatomy, said, now there is overwhelming evidence that hormones and neurotransmitters can influence the activities of the immune system, which will influence the brain. Yes, the two most important systems in the body out of these 10 systems is your nervous system and your hormonal system. I say that because the nervous system runs, it's a communication network throughout the body, isn't it? So it's interrelated to every organ, every system in your body. And I need to keep that communication open, just like the internet. I can't communicate with anybody if my internet is shut down. If my phone is shut down, I can't communicate with anybody. So I need to keep that line of communication open. Now, hormones, there's many ways hormones work. Hormones help to mitigate and to enhance immune function. It can help with digestion. It can help with repair. It can help with growth. How important is it to have these systems working optimally? But the mind gets in the way. The mind is a very funny place, and it is the mind that conjures up all of our stress. I was once told that the battle we fight is not on the outside of our body with our finances and our relationships and all these other stressors. It's right here, it's in our mind. Because once the information gets in, whether I'm hearing bad information or seeing bad information, like maybe I got a bad email, got a bad phone call, or just got a bad feeling, that's an external stimulus coming into the processor. And then how are we processing it? So what I teach my clients and what I'm going to be teaching you with some of these, enhancement strategies, things that you can do right now to start to control that computer or even reprogram it, are ways to reprocess information. I call it corrective thinking. In the Buddhist teachings, they call it right thinking. So as opposed to wrong thinking, corrective thinking as opposed to incorrective thinking. All this to say that this stress is within the body. Now, the mind and how it communicates. Well, I got to move my hand. So obviously there's a mind body connection there. My heart's beating without me thinking about it. Well, there's an automated part of my nervous system working under the radar. And when I have thoughts are things. Mind body expert Dr. Deepak Chopra has stated that we have between 60 and 80,000 thoughts per day, and nearly 80% of them are negative. Just listen, especially now in the last, well, since the start of this pandemic. Even before, I'd interview my clients, and of course, if you're feeling miserable, no wonder you're thinking negative. Well, that's really what got us there. Well, we're not talking about, thinking positive all the time. The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Shealy. I've read the book. I get it. But in order to get to that process, I had to find peace first. These negative thoughts, we have to rethink why that which is bad is happening to us. I teach my clients, either you're going through your challenges or you're growing through your challenges. So if people are having 80% of their thoughts being negative, and we're going to learn that your thoughts have a direct effect on immune function, this is a challenge. See what I mean? If you don't change your mind, how are you going to change your life? But I'll tell you, one of the greatest motivators for change is pain. Those are my best clients. They have had it. They'll do anything to get out of pain. But they're going to need coaching, because they're still going to have those days where they're not going to feel like eating their healthy eating plan. There's going to be days they're not going to want to show up and do their exercises with me or do them at home. That's all normal until you unlearn the bad behaviors and habits that were taught to us when we were younger. Dr. Candace Pert, as our feelings change, this mixture of peptides travels throughout your body and your brain, and they're literally changing the chemistry of every cell in your body. And Dr. Bruce Lipton refers to Dr. Candace Pert here. So Dr. Bruce says here, at the same time that I was studying the mechanics of the cell's brain and gaining insight into the operation of the human brain, Dr. Candace Pert was studying the human brain and becoming aware of the mechanics of the cell's brain. In Molecules of Emotion by Dr. Candace Pert, Pert revealed how her study of information processing receptors on the nerve cell membranes led to her discovery that the same neural receptors were present on most, if not all, the body's cells. Her elegant experiments established that the mind was not focused in the head, but was distributed via signal molecules to the whole body. So let's go back to this image here. You see the living cell, and around the outside you have a membrane. That's what she's referring to. That's the thinking part of the cell. It knows what it wants and it knows what it doesn't want. Now, the little lines that are attached to these images here. So you have a little line that goes from thoughts, emotions. See this little line here? That represents the receptor site on the outside of the cell. And when you have a thought, you see here, these little molecules of emotion, and these are two dendrite nerves. They travel between there. That's how we're able to use your left and right brain. Did you know that? Your neurotransmitters transmit information throughout the body to get the body to do what it needs to do. So you start seeing how the body is so receptive based on these little receptor sites, very sensitive. So your mind is sending information throughout the body, but it's also picking up information. Let's go back to the stressors again. So, what type of stress is attacking you? Do you have physical stress, financial, digestive, chemical, relationships, nutritional, job? And what type of stress is it? Is it acute, a dramatic physiological and psychological reaction to a specific event? So, you might have the symptoms of a cold or flu. Your body temperature went up, you're feeling sick, nauseous, achy. That's an acute stress response. Your body is under attack and the defense is already on their way, hopefully, if your immune response is working adequately and if your lymphatic system isn't all clogged up. How about a psychological event? PTSD, right? The trauma. There's chronic stress. That's the stealth stress that's under the radar. It's always kind of there. However, is a constant sense of feeling pressure and overwhelmed over a long period of time. So we had the acute stress of the start of the pandemic. And now going forward out of these over 2 years, we've had chronic stress over the entire population. Now, do you think that's going to break down our immune system or enhance it? External stressors are things that stress the body from the outside. Physical stress, lifting, pushing, moving, bending, twisting, such as sunlight. So we have physical stress, we have sunlight. Nothing wrong with sunlight, but too much of a good thing isn't a good thing, right? Emotional trauma, exposure to chemicals. Chemicals, gasoline, if you work in a place where there's a lot of chemicals, like automotive technicians, or if you're eating food that's chemically laden, that's coming from the outside going to the inside, creating internal stress. Now we move into internal stress. Comes from within the body and are usually a reaction to external stressors. But they all accumulate in the body, affecting each principle. They all accumulate. See here in this image? So the more we have, the greater the response. Now, there is good stress and there is bad stress. So give me an example of good stress. Love. You're in love. Heart rate goes up. You're feeling great. You can't wait to see him again. It's a good stress. Going on vacation's a good stress. It's a lot of work to get going, catching flights, driving, traffic, but you're excited because you're on vacation. All right, so we already know what bad stress is. But when this accumulates, because either way, it's stressful. I'm not saying don't go out and have a good time, but it does accumulate on the body. I look at the red and the green in stress like I look at the yin and yang symbol. So here we have our yin and yang symbol. And some of these symbols are represented in white and black, or it could be white and red. Now, I use green and orange because orange represents movement, action, and green represents rebuilding or restoring. So you look at the green, and that would be representative of yin. And yin energy is for restoration, repair, restoring. But within our yin, we will experience some yang. So in my day, I'm busy. I have timelines, I have schedules, I have events, and I have challenges. They're built in, but I maintain my yang throughout my day. Over here, we have the yang symbol because the yang is an outward expression. That's to work out, to achieve, to succeed, to work, which is important, but we have to find balance. You've heard of that before with the yin and yang symbol. We're finding the balance in between. I try to live my life on the line between it. Sometimes I have a little bit too much yang. There's a little yin in there I need. Sometimes I have a little bit too much yin and I need a little bit of yang. So when my clients come in to see me and I've rated their wellness and movement, they're most likely in the yang. Now I'm going to use the color red here as my yang. So you see, as we're moving away from optimal wellness and movement and towards dis-ease, now I put the hyphen there because you're not at ease when you're living in yang. So when you're in a chronic state of stress or pain, you're not at ease. So what's the first thing I'm going to be teaching you about managing or how you handle your stress is managing your mind, and with using breath and other enhancement strategies, I can get you more at ease, which then begins to lower your rating. If we don't address these areas, and all I was to focus on was just your immune system by itself, by taking vitamin C and or whatever you're doing to augment your illness, that's only one part of it. There's got to be change in your life. That's the one thing that's uncomfortable when it comes to consulting, because I'm here to share with my clients after I've rated their wellness and movement. I'm here to share with them that now we have to make some changes. This person had to make lifestyle changes in order to bring their score down. And then it's up to them to maintain it. Does that mean that they're not going to have a day of stress? No. They're just going to be able to manage it better. I still experience heavy duty stress, but my mind is in better shape now. I have better emotional fitness. I have a better emotional fitness capacity so that I can modulate that nervous system back to ease, and I can prevent the chronic continuous breakdown of the immune system. So external. So let's talk about this. So what are they telling us right now? They're telling us that we have a challenge, and we're to fear this virus. Fear, when I was given a diagnosis, I feared it. And what my mentors and coaches and teachers taught me was the fear itself is going to make it worse. Change your perception of what you're looking at, and that which you're looking at will change. I'm not telling you to ignore it. I still have to make lifestyle changes. I had to. And so did my clients. But I'm not going to live in fear. And look at the word fear, F-E-A-R. False evidence appearing real. This human emotion that is triggered by a perceived threat, it is a basic survival mechanism that signals our bodies to respond to danger with a fight or flight response, now which is called a fight, flight, or freeze response. As such, it is an essential part of keeping us safe, and it weakens our immune system. We need to, if we're being threatened, I want my fight, flight, or freeze response to work to protect me. But I don't want to live like that all day long. So your brain automatically shunts the blood from the digestive system into your, I'll call it your movement system, into your arms and legs. Because where there's blood, there's oxygen. And where there's oxygen, there's sustainability. And you need to run. And it shunts the blood away so you can put the blood into the legs and arms so you can get yourself moving. So your digestion also shuts down. But did you know that your immune system gets shut down as well? And so again, the clients coming into me, kin to see me or I'm consulting with, this is happening perpetually. Their immune system is way down. It's interrupting their thinking. It's interrupting their sleeping. Their digestion is all off. You have two brains, ladies and gentlemen. You have the brain up in your skull, and you have the viscera. You have the gut brain. Your gut is a thinking organ, which I will share with you. It communicates with you. The gut brain connection. Let me just go forward here. I see the gut brain axis. It influences our stress, anxiety, mood, and behavior. All right. Excessive stress produces imbalances in the hormone cortisol. Cortisol is ordinarily an anti-inflammatory and contains the immune response. But chronic elevations can lead to the immune system becoming resistant. An accumulation of stress hormones and increased production of inflammatory cytokines that further compromise the immune response. Hence, the cytokine storm and decreases the body's lymphocytes. Remember we talked about the cytokines up here? I said an overstimulation of this response causes a cytokine storm. This is what happens when you get the cold or flu. You go into chaos. You get inflamed. Any illness is inflammatory. Any one. It's all an inflammatory process because your body's excited. Your body's in chaos. That's even a better word. And what we have is we have our first line of defense working because our mind is under better management. And the other thing is when we are in a high amount of emotional stress, such as fear, we are actually inhibiting immune function, actually inhibiting it. So the other thing with fear that I want to get into a little bit is respiration. When we look at the breathing mechanism and how that also contributes to the chaos in the body. So let me give you an example. I'm going to be sharing some enhancement strategies and how to breathe properly. So when you're under a lot of stress, and you have been under a lot of stress, and this is years of it, not just the last 2 years. So pre-COVID, I would evaluate my clients' breathing. I need to get a baseline on how they're oxygenating the body and how they're releasing carbon dioxide. And what I found was between 2004 and about 2000, and this continues to this day, but specifically 2004 and about 2012, when I would evaluate my clients' breathing, there were 98% of the people coming in were breathing invertedly. What does that mean? Well, a diaphragmatic breath is one in which where you inhale down into the belly, and then 2/3 of that is filled up in that rib cage and belly, and then 1/3 is to the chest. So that's a diaphragmatic breath. That's how you're supposed to breathe. And what I was seeing was people were just breathing in, up into their chest. They were not getting full expansion into the diaphragm, which also means that they weren't getting proper oxygen uptake or proper carbon dioxide release outtake. And that imbalance creates a toxic environment, if you will. But the increase of carbon dioxide shunts the brain mechanism and also affects our immune response. There's a lot more that goes on here than that, but I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible. What we're talking about is breathing. And when we're under fear, so remember when you had acute fear, we You get startled, and where does the breath go? Right up to the chest, and you start breathing hard up here. And someone would say to you, okay, I want you to slow your breathing down. I want you to breathe into your belly. This is what some of the good health coaches and yoga teachers and such are teaching you. And they're exactly right. Slow the breathing down because we're breathing too rapid. So this was pre-COVID. And then after COVID, I found the same thing. And then I found some other things that were pretty incredible as well. So I test and rate my clients' basic breathing operation. So I mark down inverted breathing. So you're breathing invertedly when you're under acute stress, when you're under fear. And you have to re-regulate that because as you do that over and over, it becomes a learned response. And you walk into my office, maybe the stress is gone, and yet now you have another stress. Now, but you walk into my office and I'm measuring you as an inverted breather. All right. Now, the other thing is having to do with breath and this weakening on the immune and lymphatic system is our rate of breathing. So people are breathing way too much. They're breathing shallow and they're breathing way too much within a minute. Now, I've written articles on this. Let's see, Breathe Less, Live Longer is the name of an article I've written. You're probably not going to find it on my website. I'm having a little trouble with that page, but if you'd like to get a copy of that article, let me know. And I also have a video tutorial on that, which is found on my YouTube channel. So, and the science is shown with that. Let me just do this. Go here to one. So here's my Breathe Less and Live Longer. And here we were looking at proper breathing is health enhancing as it increases oxygenation to over 70 trillion cells in the human body. It alkalizes the blood, increases energy, decreases carbon dioxide levels, and regulates your metabolism. How about that? I'd like to regulate your metabolism. Learn to breathe right. Decrease your basal metabolic rate. Nasal versus mouth breathing. And then I can go on here to talk about where the diaphragm is. So here you see I included images. So you can see your diaphragm and how you have to breathe down towards your pelvic floor. But an inverted breathing pattern will lead to a host of biochemical and mechanical dysfunctions. Decreases blood oxygen level, which will affect cellular metabolism. Increases levels of CO2. Disturbs the body's delicate pH balance caused by an over acidity and could potentially cause inflammatory problems and other disease processes. Okay. Breathing rapidly or up into the chest creates an inflammatory response in the blood. And we create these cytokine storms because we're not breathing and ventilating the body properly. An inverting breathing pattern is when you breathe in and your chest rises, and when you breathe into your belly diaphragmatically, your belly should expand. More than 90% of modern normal subjects suffer from chronic hyperventilation. So breathing invertedly will cause hyperventilation, and also breathing rate will affect that hyperventilation. Breathing rate, medically speaking, normal breathing rate for an adult is about 12 to 20 breaths per minute. And then as James Nestor, the author of the New York Times bestseller Breathe, had to say the breathing rate for the average adult male, according to the study in 1930s, used to be about 13 times per minute. Used to be. By 1980 and 1990, several studies placed the mean breathing rate at closer to 10 to 12 breaths per minute. That's pretty slow breathing. Well, the whole reason I brought this up is because we're talking about fear here, aren't we? We're talking about the cytokine storm. We're talking about decreasing immune and lymphatic function. Is oxygen important for fighting illness? Yes. Remember what Dr. Otto Warburg said, that an cancers, illness cannot grow in an oxygen-rich alkaline environment. And what we're doing by breathing hard, fast, is we're creating an acid response. We're decreasing oxygen and creating chaos in the system. So it will affect your immune response. Hence, the cytokine storm, right? Decreases the body's lymphocytes, the white blood cells that help fight infection. The lower your lymphocyte level, the more at risk you are for viruses, including the common cold and cold sores. Exposures to acute stress, trauma, fear have been shown to, in both mice and humans, to compromise immune function and impair lymphocyte function. Fear and stress makes you more vulnerable to infections. So you're being driven into fear to lower your immune system. And in fact, we are supposedly trying to fight off something that is affecting our immune system. What we should be teaching people is how to get out of that response. So let's go back here. Let's listen again to what Bruce has to say.
Right. What does that mean? It pushes the blood from the gut to the arms and legs.
What he's talking about is fight to flight.
Yeah, but what does it mean about the gut? I say it stops functioning. Maintenance of the body's out. Taking care of the system is out. Why? The energy is getting ready to run. So the moment the stress hormones are in, you stop maintaining the body. Number two, and this is the big one. You ready? Stress hormones shut off the immune system. Oh, yeah. I say, why is that important? Well, if you've ever been sick, you might have known maybe you didn't even have the energy to get out of bed. When the immune system is operating like that, it uses so much energy, you probably can't even move sometimes. I go, yep. So I say you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. You have a bacterial infection. How do you want to split the energy? How much energy you want to fight that bacteria back? Or how much energy you want to run away from the tiger? Let me help you with the answer. You want all the energy to run away from the tiger. So stress hormones, listen to this. Stress hormones shut off the immune system to conserve energy to escape the stress. Oh my God. That means the more stressed you're under, the less effective your immune system is, because the stress hormones are shutting it down. I said there were three things, and the third one is also very important. When you're in a fight or flight, it's not time to think. And I say, what does that mean? I say, well, thinking is a very slow process. I ask you to think about something, you go, oh. I go, when you're running away from a tiger, you don't have to go, oh. You don't have time for that. You got to run. So stress hormones shut off thinking. I said, what do you mean? The blood vessels that are behind your forehead here in the brain, this is where thinking occurs. I say, what happens? What happened to the blood vessels in the gut when the stress hormones came in? They squeeze shut. I say, well, why do I want to shut the blood vessels off in my brain? I say, you didn't. You shut it off in the conscious brain up here. But that pushes the blood to the hindbrain. And that's where the reflexes and the reactions are coming from. So you don't have to think and waste time. Just put the energy right back in there. Let's make an action right now. So I say, we become less intelligent when we're afraid. And then I say, well, look at the world today. It's chaos. It's fear. I mean, the COVID thing scared everybody so much. They said, don't even talk to anybody. Put your mask on. Keep away from everybody. The businesses shut down. But I said, oh my God, this is fear. And I go, that is the result. And that happens inside the body. Everything shuts down that would keep you going.
So isn't it amazing? You know, what we're learning here, ladies and gentlemen, is just by looking at how we process life, and then we have the stress, and then it interrupts our thinking, and then it interrupts our breathing, and then we're ended up here. He was referring to when we're under sympathetic stress. fight, flight, or freeze. And he used the example of the gut. It decreases, it inhibits digestive activity so that the blood can go into the other parts of the body for function. So when you're under fear, this is what constricts or gets reduced, or it could get enhanced. So we have an accelerated heart rate, relaxes the bronchial tunes, dilates the pupils, inhibits the digestion, stimulates the glucose released by the liver, secretion of epinephrine and norepinephrine from the kidneys, relaxes the bladder and contracts the rectum. So that's yang energy. Is there a time for that? Yes. Did God design it so it's like that 24/7? No. So when you're looking at enhancing your immune system, why do I start with how you handle stress? We're going to get into how this affects the other systems, and then we're going to talk about, what you can do to enhance it. But what we're looking at here is chronic and acute stress effects on the immune and lymphatic systems. Stress creates a hormone in your body called cortisol. Cortisol can suppress your immune system's effectiveness in fighting off invaders by lowering the number of lymphocytes present in the blood, interfering with normal white blood communication. And remember, it all accumulates. That's why I do a rating. Where are you rating? If you're ill, change the response. So you change your lifestyle changes, enhance the response time, and no matter what you're fighting up against, you're recovering better. And that's why I don't get sick when I hang around people that get sick. But I can get the symptoms if I have an unhealthy lifestyle plan. And what about laughter? What about humor? Humor and laughter may influence health, humor and immune function. This was published in 2007. And you can see here the relationship between laughter and the change of NK cells. NK cells, remember what those were? NK cells help to fight cancer. Well, you can improve your NK cell activity with humor. So when somebody's not feeling well, I will ask them, well, what makes you laugh? Is it a movie, or what makes you laugh? And I'll say, I want you to do that today. I want you to find time to laugh. Okay, watch a funny movie. Now, here are some things you can do today to help with this. Mind training. Adapt daily practices of prayer and or meditation. Now, I read a book, 12 years ago, maybe more than that. The Master Key System, about retraining your mind. Oh God, it was about 20 years ago, actually. Retraining your mind. I've been doing mind retraining for years. The possibilities of thought training are infinite. The consequences eternal, and yet few take the pains to direct their thinking into channels that will do them good. But instead leave all to chance. Let me repeat this. The possibility of thought training is infinite. The consequence is eternal, and yet few take the pains to direct their thinking into channels that will do them good. Instead, they leave all to chance. That's why I say the hardest and the toughest muscle to train in the body is the mind. And that's where it should start. Take a few minutes at the start of your day to sit quietly, to meditate or pray. This will help to prepare your mind for the day ahead. I never leave home or start my work without that practice. Studies have shown that practicing the art of meditation can help to reduce pain. Board certified surgeon Barbara Burgeon recommends meditation over medication to her patients. And a groundbreaking study published in 2013 documented for the first time that this physiological state of deep rest induced by practices like meditation, yoga, deep breathing, and prayer produces immediate changes in the expression of genes involved in immune function, energy metabolism, and insulin secretion. Results that should impress even the most skeptical biomedical researcher. Many studies have shown that mind-body interventions like the relaxation response can reduce stress and enhance wellness in healthy individuals, and reduce stress and enhance wellness, and counteract the adverse clinical effects of stress in conditions like hypertension, anxiety, diabetes, and aging, said pioneer mind-body researcher and co-author and study Herbert Benson. Now, for the first time, we've identified the key physiological hubs through which these benefits might be induced. So breathing diaphragmatically, place one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. When you breathe in, I want you to breathe in and out through your nose if you can. At the very least, in through your nose and out through your lips, not just a little gentle blow out through your lips. When you breathe in through your nose, I want you to breathe down into your belly. You should feel your hand on your belly rise first before you feel the hand on your chest rise. So follow me. Slowly in. Pause. Exhale even slower. Remember, you should feel the lower hand fill first. And I always teach my clients, however many seconds it takes for you to inhale, you should exhale twice as long. So if you go 3 seconds in, it should be 6 seconds out. And that'll slow your rate of breathing. And by the slow exhale, you're releasing the carbon dioxide. All right, so go to my YouTube channel and learn the art of proper diaphragmatic breathing. Practice the art of diaphragmatic breathing. Practice corrective or right thinking. So I have a couple suggestions for that. And what you choose to think is what you choose for the day. So something else that I do with my clients is I have a corrective thinking system or exercise system whereby they write out what they choose. So one of mine is, I choose love over hatred. That's corrective thinking. When I'm in the middle of stress and it comes at me, and believe me, you're allowed to be angry and frustrated. I'm not saying you don't not allow those emotions. Don't stuff them. Don't hurt anybody with them, but don't stuff them. But the minute they come up, I try to right think at that moment. What can I learn from this? Sometimes if I'm in disagreement with somebody, I will stop for a second and send them forgiveness. Or at the end of the discussion, I want to make sure that we're okay with everything that we disagreed with. So corrective thinking. Spend more time earthing and grounding. Published online 2015, March 24th, the effects of grounding, earthing on inflammation, the immune system, wound healing, prevention, and treatment of chronic inflammatory or autoimmune challenges. Multidisciplinary research has revealed that electronically conductive contact of the human body with the surface of the earth, called grounding or earthing, produces intriguing effects on the physiology and health. Such effects relate to inflammation, immune response, wound healing, prevention and treatment of chronic inflammatory or autoimmune diseases. Let's hear what Dr. Joseph Mercola says about grounding here.
Grounding maybe 12, 13 years ago through one of the trainers for the Tour de France team from the US. And he was using it with many other athletes and with surprising results. And I think that surprising best summarizes my response to it, because it didn't seem to make sense. I think I became a believer once I started to explore the science.
You need electrons for energy. It's called the electron transport chain in mitochondria. It generates adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. It's the energy molecule in the body. I tell athletes that before an event, stand 15 minutes in your bare feet on the grass, and you will charge up your electron stores. And should you fall down, and athletes fall down, you will not have inflammation at all.
Perform work-in exercises like Tai Chi, light yoga, and gentle walks and Qigong. Practice sitting quietly and writing in a journal or drawing. And of course, the laughter. So these are things you can go out and start doing right now. If you need more information on ways of starting a meditation program or mind training program, I mean, you can contact me at info@wellnessmovementservices.com, or explore some of the works by Dr. Wayne Dyer or Dr. Deepak Chopra and others in the area of mind training, and start using these principles in your life. I used, or I should say, I've read plenty of work by Dr. Wayne Dyer and applied it into my life. And I definitely will say I was going through some really tough times in the late 90s. And if it wasn't for my meditation practice and the things I was learning from Dr. Wayne Dyer and his books, I give all the credit to a higher power, of course, but God will always show you the way. Maybe that's the reason why you're watching this video. There are no accidents. Practice the art of diaphragmatic breathing. And again, you can watch videos that I've done on diaphragmatic breathing on my YouTube channel. So 2/3 is down here and 1/3 is up here. And when you exhale, slow. And there's that little pause. Go again. So you see how I'm showing you how to do this lying down versus seated at first. It's a lot easier to learn. So this video is both, that gets frustrating. This video is both educational and instructional. So corrective or right thinking, choose your words correctly, choose your thoughts correctly. Remember, 80% of our thoughts are negative. So I want you to redirect those thoughts. So the minute you're not thinking happy thoughts, again, experience them, but don't hold them. I always tell my clients, it's okay to experience a negative thought, but don't hold it and take it with you wherever you go. Because that negative thought will be compounded with another negative thought, which will be compounded with a negative thought, and all these negative trapped emotions get stuck in the body. But like I always teach my clients, it's okay to experience these emotions, just don't hold them. Go outside and walk barefoot in the grass. Look into the aspects and the benefits of grounding or earthing. Try work-in exercises like Tai Chi, light yoga, gentle walks, and Qigong. Remember, if your immune system is compromised, you want to exercise lightly because exercise can be overstimulating to the nervous system. And with work-in exercises like Tai Chi, light yoga, gentle walks, and Qigong, they're all done with breath. So I'm never out of breath, not working out so hard that it leaves me breathless. I'm using the breath with these exercises. You know, stop and smell the roses, sit quietly, writing in a journal, or just drawing. Some of my clients like to draw. Some of my clients like to work in the garden. I could have put that on there. But these are things, I don't mean working heavy in the garden, but these are things, getting your hands in the soil. These are things that help to relax your system. And most importantly, laugh. So in closing, I think now you understand why this takes a little bit more time. I want to make sure you have the proper education, that it's done in a way where you can grasp it and get started. This is not a completion of how this immune and lymphatic system works, but it gives you a baseline, an understanding of how it functions and now what we can do. And what we're going to do in the next part is we're going to go into biochemical health. So I always thank everyone for their support. If you have any questions, concerns, or would like to get a consultation, whether it be a lifestyle survey consultation or a comprehensive consultation, the contact information will be located after this video. All right. So enjoy your day. Don't get caught up on what's going on out there. Take this information and let's get started by building up our own defenses. And most importantly, have unwavering faith and trust in God. Namaste, everybody. Bye for now.